just so you guys know, about 85% more or less of the federal workforce works from home and only has to come in 1 day a month. In fact, of any given day, only 17% of all the federal workforce is in a federal building. Only 6% of federal workers are working full-time in their offices. 30% are fully remote, according to the Federal News Network survey this spring. Some agencies are using less than 10% of all their space. 17 out of 24 federal agencies were only using about 1/4 of their headquarters space as of 2023. So they've expanded and extended all the COVID rules, where now a lot of these workers are now working at home, not actually doing their job, and a lot of them have other work. So they're working as independent contractors, which is against the law. Just to be for the record, it is against the law if you work for the federal government to take other work. It is a permanent COVID vacation for federal workers, but only for the federal worker class. Big tech realized this does not work, so they sent everybody back to work. Schools realized this doesn't work, so they sent everybody back to work. Everyone has realized that this doesn't work, except the federal government, where your taxpayer dollars, you are slaving yourself at work to write a check to the federal government so that somebody can just sit at home and not even do work. Federal workers think they don't have to work. So we have a $6.5 trillion budget. And again, many of them have other jobs. I want to just repeat that. So they're taking money from the federal taxpayer and they're not actually doing their job because no one checks them. And then they're going to go work as a waiter or a waitress or as an Uber driver. You know what you call someone who sucks up resources in return for nothing? You call them a parasite. And that is what the federal workforce has become in many instances. Let me read these numbers again. Only 6% of federal workers are working full-time in their offices. 30% are fully remote. Some agencies are using less than 10% of their space. By the way, these numbers might be high. It might be even lower than this. So we are going trillions of dollars in debt to subsidize individuals that are sitting at home taking your money. Let's zoom out a bit. Why is it always so hard to shut down the government? They're not even at the office anyway. And remember, these are non-essential workers, many of them. When you realize and you learn the waste and the fraud of the federal government, it will take your breath away. We are talking about federal contractors that do nothing in unjustifiable expenses. This is why DC during the week looks like a ghost town. Anytime that they close the government, they don't even have to work, even if they're at home. And many people in our audience are saying, Charlie, I had no idea about any of this. I didn't either. You know, Blake and other people in the chat who are very well informed said, oh, this is well known. I disagree. I don't think this is well known. I don't think the majority of our audience knows that only 17% of federal workers are coming in. And let me just tell you how this works. So according to the new COVID rules that the union negotiated, you have to come in for 1 day a month. So the way that they do it is that almost every federal worker will find a way to buttress up the end of the month with the start of the month. So for example, in January of 2025, I'm looking at the calendar. That actually doesn't work very, very well this year because almost all of the new months are on the weekend. But let's say that it becomes a new month on a Wednesday. So you come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and you don't have to come in for that whole previous month or the next month. So you come in for 2 days. Essentially, let me distill this. Federal workers are coming into the office 6 times a year. Let me say that again. Federal workers are coming into the office 6 times a year. Many of them don't even live in the DC area anymore. They live in Philadelphia, they live in New York, they live in Florida, and they'll just come in and, road trip on up for a day, stay at a Holiday Inn, go in for 1 day, go in for another day, and they're done. And then they have other jobs because no one's actually supervising their work. This is one of the greatest taxpayer-funded looting operations in American history. Donald Trump has now empowered Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to identify this and stop it. It's a good way to first start is, hey, you have to come into the office to work. Donald Trump can do that by executive order. Number 2, no outside work. Number 3, what do you actually do here?